I know you probably are hearing a lot about COP28 and all the news that's coming out of there, whether it's good or bad, mostly not so good. But we're not going to talk about that today. Today, I want to talk about deep sea mining. There was a meeting that happened over the summer. I kind of covered it last summer, but I wanted to talk about it today because there have been some articles on Greenpeace and some mining websites that have talked about certain countries that have wanted to go out and companies that have wanted to go out and mine in the deep sea to really get this going. They're saying it's for testing, but essentially they're also saying we want to start mining in a couple of years. So from a summer and meetings where we heard a lot of countries that are against mining and wanted to continue the moratorium on deep sea mining, this is a little concerning, and I want to talk about it today on the episode. Here we go. Let's start the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin, and this is a podcast where you find out what's happening with the ocean, how you can speak up for the ocean, and what you can do to live for a better ocean by taking action. And today I normally talk about speaking up for the ocean in science communication, but I want to communicate something to you today. There have been some concerning reports and articles that have come out from Greenpeace and some mining websites where I've seen countries and companies, one of the companies is from my country, that want to start testing or want to continue testing deep sea mining to find out how viable it is. And to be honest, how much money can they make off of this? Even though in the summer there was a meeting with the ISA, which is the International Seabed Authority in Kingston, Jamaica. It's the United Nations affiliate organization that regulates deep sea mining. They have a meeting in Kingston, Jamaica every year, and they're going to have a meeting in 2024. This past year, we found that there were a number of countries, over 20, that were, ready to say, hey, we want to keep this moratorium on deep sea mining. We want to keep a precautionary pause. And those countries included Brazil, Canada, Costa Rica, Chile, Finland, Germany, Portugal, Switzerland, and Vanuatu were among those 21 countries that wanted to support a ban or a moratorium or precautionary pause, whatever you'd like to call it. Now, countries like China, Norway, Nauru, which I've never heard of before, but that's a country, Mexico, and the UK were in support of fast-tracking licenses for deep-sea mining. So the next meeting is going to be in mid-2024. And there are a couple of articles that start talking about one mining that's going to happen in the Pacific Ocean, which is a test mining. It's by the metals company, TMC, which is out of Canada. Great for Canada. I'm saying that sarcastically, by the way. And this is going to be the first deep-sea mining sort of exploration in the international waters. So it's not in any country's waters because Canada has is supporting a moratorium, so they're not going to have that within their exclusive economic zone. I believe the U.S. is not going to have it, although they weren't listed as any of the countries per se that were for or against it. So we're seeing something international. So where this is going to happen in the Clarion-Clipperton zone. It's a vast region between Mexico and Hawaii. It contains billions of polymetallic nodules, which is potato-sized rocks rich in cobalt, nickel, and other minerals. And aboard our scientists TMC, not the gossip column, hired to assess the impact of a 2022 test mining operation conducted by a separate vessel, the Hidden Gem, for a TMC subsidiary. So this thing is going to happen, and Greenpeace is not having it. They have activists from Greenpeace International have boarded a ship that is conducting the deep sea mining research in the Pacific Ocean, which is the one we're talking about, and vowing to occupy the vessel until it abandons the expedition. So at first there were 2 people that were on it, 2 activists from Greenpeace, and then there were 4, and then now there are currently 2. I assume they were just swapping out. It's the latest collision between a nascent industry intent on mining the seabed for minerals potentially worth trillions of dollars, and environmentalists and scientists who warn that doing so would irreparably harm biodiverse deep sea ecosystems. So obviously I'm reading that from the article. I'll put the links in the show notes for those articles. But this is something that's quite concerning. And another story, Greenpeace highlighted Norway has greenlit the deep sea mining in the Arctic, which shatters international credibility, is what Greenpeace is saying. And so what they've essentially done is they've allowed for legislation, or they're passing legislation that will allow for for mining in the deep sea, and they are looking to deep sea mine across an expansive area equivalent of the size of the UK, situated between Svalbard and Jan Mayen, I guess it's an island in the Arctic region. So apparently the Conservatives and the far-right Progressive Party have joined the Norwegian government parties to secure a majority to open the area for exploration, to take the first steps towards mining on the Norwegian seabed. So the first extraction licenses will need approval from the Norwegian Parliament, which means that the battle against deep sea mining continues. So there's obviously going to be some talk, and I don't know much about the politics and the environmental politics within Norway, within the government of Norway, but it looks like there's still going to be a battle that's heading forward. But the fact is that the Norwegians plan on deep sea mining. And that is scary in the Arctic Ocean. The Arctic Ocean is already facing some hardships from melting sea ice. Animals that are going, that are potentially going extinct. Including some major iconic ones, like the polar bear. And so, this is something that we need to look out for. This is something that Norwegians want to sort of break the ice, let's just say, and try and be one of the first countries to do so in their own waters. Now, of course, there are a lot of people that are against it. Activists in 20 countries have protested at Norwegian embassies. The EU Commission, which Norway is not part of, has expressed strong concern about the environmental impact of the plans. 119 European parliamentarians have written an open letter to the Norwegian colleagues asking them to stop the opening process, and more than 800 ocean scientists have called for a pause on deep sea mining globally. So, obviously this is very, very concerning, seeing how deep sea mining is kind of coming through with these countries. It really made it sound in the summer when the 21 countries kind of stepped up and said, hey, we're against this. We don't want to start deep sea mining. People were like, okay, this is good. This is a good sign. We want to continue the pause. There's still a lot more research that we need to do. Now, the story that's going out into the Pacific Ocean and international waters, the country doesn't understand why Greenpeace is against it, because apparently what they're saying they're going to do is they want to go out and they want to explore. They want to test. So they're doing more scientific testing, which the company TMC is saying, hey, you know what? You guys have asked for more testing to ground truth the claims that are made by these companies. So they're going out and they're saying, hey, why are you guys stopping us from doing? Why do you guys want to stop us from going out and ground truthing our claims? Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to show you that we can do this without harming the environment. Now, how are they going to do that? How are they going to test? That's a great question. I am not sure what they're going to do. I think what they want to do from a company perspective is test to say, hey, you know what? This is actually quite viable. We can make a lot of money off of this. And I don't think they really care about the environmental impacts. I mean, how are you going to measure environmental impacts from deep sea mining? You might be able to look at what is going to be disturbed at the bottom of the ocean in that particular spot, but you have no idea the ramifications that happens around that spot after the disturbance. And that will take years to be able to discover what those ramifications are, what those consequences are. And when you do that, on the other hand, you have these companies that are saying, hey, in a couple of years or 2-3 years, we want to be deep sea mining, let's go. Like, this is it. It's time to really open up the deep sea for mining, and let's start making trillions and trillions of dollars like we've been claiming that's available for us. And let's try and help out, the environmental vehicles and all the different batteries that are going to be made and all that kind of stuff. Now, when I had Dr. Andrew Thaler on earlier this year, and I'll put the link to that episode in the show notes, I highly recommend that you listen to that. A lot of times he mentioned that eventually he believes that these companies are going to start deep sea mining, whether in full force or whether we're going to see the results or the what's coming out of the deep sea, whether that's going to be in sort of regular production. We'll probably be 50 years out from that, even if we started today. However, because there's a lot to learn from that, when there's a lot to learn from that, there's going to be a lot of disasters from that, as we will find out, I'm sure, at some point. But however, he still believes that the companies are trying to do something good. They believe that the only way to really curb climate change is to put out solutions such as environmental vehicles, right? Or electric vehicles, EVs. Put out more solutions where we need more batteries to store electricity, to store energy so that we can keep the energy from renewables, right? From renewable energy mechanisms like solar and wind. The batteries is what we're missing. The ability to store that energy is what we're really missing on a large plane. And to do that, we need to ensure that we have the metals that are currently used in batteries. Now, with that said, there is a lot of innovation going on with batteries. I think there's rumors that NASA has a battery, or not rumors, but reports that NASA has a battery that can potentially power, airlines, right? That's huge. That is huge. And so if we're starting to see that, imagine what that will do for the EVs. And apparently it doesn't necessarily need a lot of metals. I can't say that for sure, but apparently it's not necessary. And we're going to start to see, I assume, if we're depending on batteries or if we have batteries that are dependent on cobalt, nickel, and so forth, we're going to try and move away from that, because the solution is to go to the deep sea. The problem with going to the deep sea is that when you go to the deep sea, you can't see the ramifications right away unless you put ROVs down there. There's going to be a lot of money that's going to have to go into monitoring these things, and we don't really know the deep sea that well. We've put ROVs down there, we've put subs down there. Not always the greatest. There's definitely going to have to be regulations just around that. So how are we going to actually monitor this to make sure that we're watching if there's going to be problems in the deep sea, if we're causing problems, and if we are, and we start to sound the alarm, is it going to be too late? Is it going to be like, hey, every country's going out to do this type of mining? They're all going to be in the deep sea, and it's going to be too widespread to stop. And once that money comes in, once humans take that money, then people are going to be like, oh wow, this is what we want to do. We are going to try and get this right off the bat. We're going to try and get as much money as possible, hopefully save the planet with it, but hopefully not destroy it. And then if we start to destroy the deep sea, they're going to start to say, well, maybe we shouldn't have done that. But that's going to be too late because money's already going to be made. Let's be honest. We know greed is what fuels humans and these days, and capitalism. And so, not to say that it's all bad in terms of having money, but is it worth destroying the deep sea, which we don't know what those larger ramifications are going to be. So that's essentially the story, is Norway and companies that across the world, including Canada, are starting to wanting to explore and have licenses to explore their own country, their own exclusive economic zone, as well as international waters. That becomes dangerous. I'm very worried about this. I want to know how you feel about this. Are you worried? DM me on Instagram at How to Protect the Ocean. I'd love to have a conversation, because that's what this podcast is about. It's about having conversations. It's about sharing our worries, sharing our concerns, sharing information. And of course, if you want to join, I just released a newsletter. It's a daily newsletter that kind of keeps you up to date with a lot of the stuff that I can't keep up with on this podcast. I decided to put it out. I put some jobs out there that every day, and essentially what I'm trying to do is just build that information highway, right? We have some on the podcast if you're listening on your commute to work, or walking the dogs or dog, or whatever you're walking with your kids, whatever that might be, and you want to pop in a podcast, you can listen to our episodes, you can find out what's happening with the ocean. You can also, or you can do either or. If you want it in your inbox in the morning, you get this newsletter every morning, every weekday morning anyway. And I'm going to build on that. So I want to hear your feedback. I've already got some great feedback in terms of the jobs I'm going to be adding. I started to add like where the countries are and what organizations it's from, where those jobs are, and it's going to be really exciting. So I'm hoping that this can catch on. I hope we can inform more people, because that's the goal of this podcast and of my company, Speak Up for Blue Media and Communications, is to essentially inform you about what's happening with the ocean, so that you can speak up for the ocean and you can act for the ocean to live for a better ocean. So that's it for the podcast today. I really appreciate you. If you want to sign up for that newsletter, you go to speakupforblue.com/newsletter. It's pretty simple. speakupforblue.com/newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. There'll be a landing page there. You just need to put out your email. I don't share your email with anybody. I promise you that. And you'll get that email right to your inbox every weekday morning. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time, and happy conservation.